I was mainly drawn to this because of the cast. I love Simon Pegg and Juno Temple. I think they're great. Otherwise, I don't know, this one didn't look that spectacular to be honest. But it's written and directed by Catherine O'Brien and it's her debut feature-length film. And the story here deals with a young woman who's working a boring desk job. And then she gets introduced to this fairly small-time local music producer. And I gotta say, I liked the opening to this movie a lot. I might have even loved it, as a foundation. It just had this really unique, down-to-earth feel to it, and it seemed like Simon Pegg was really enjoying this role as well. In fact, this was on its way to becoming one of my favorite performances of his in a long time, if not ever. But then the actual story kicks in like 15 minutes in, where his character gets off his meds. And it turns out he's got schizophrenia, and yeah, the movie takes a bit of a sudden left turn at that point. Because the rest of the movie is almost exclusively about that. It's pretty much just about mental health. Which is why I kinda had to spoil the beginning, because it's kinda difficult to talk about this movie without mentioning it. However, my issue with this is that it didn't start off being about mental health. And it didn't ease you into it either. It starts off being about this young woman and about this music producer who wants to help her kickstart her music career. But then it's just like someone flipped the switch and out of the blue it's suddenly about mental health. And the other storyline about the music business becomes secondary to the point that it's almost irrelevant. In fact, this woman's whole storyline becomes almost exclusively about this man. And the worst part is that she doesn't actually have much agency in that storyline. She's pretty much just a passenger along for the ride and she doesn't have much of an impact on anything that's happening. And it feels like her character becomes very passive because whatever she does, it doesn't really matter. Simon Pegg's character is on his own journey, doing his own thing. And I mean, perhaps that was the point too, that people in this situation, people trying to help others with mental illness, often end up feeling helpless. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but as far as the storytelling goes, this just doesn't feel very satisfying. It doesn't feel like anyone's really doing anything to make a difference here. It just feels like everyone's just along for the ride and then we suddenly arrive at the end. And nothing anyone did along the way really made an impact or mattered. And that made it very difficult to get invested and to really get immersed in it. Which isn't helped by the fact that the music storyline just sort of fell by the wayside. And by the end of it, it almost felt like an afterthought because it really lacked depth. There just wasn't enough time dedicated to it, and yeah, that was a bit disappointing as well. However, despite all its flaws, I still wouldn't call this a bad movie necessarily. But I think it was carried by the subject matter, which is very serious, and by the two main performances that were still pretty good, all things considered. But had they not been good, this whole thing would have fallen apart immediately. And while I initially thought Simon Pegg was great in this, I loved his on-meds persona. His off-meds persona wasn't as great, however, that was mostly an issue with the writing. Because I felt like it lacked subtlety and he still did a good job with what he was working with. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is not a great movie and the performances couldn't really elevate it beyond mediocrity. However, does that mean I wouldn't recommend it? It's not terrible, but there are probably better things to watch than this. So I don't know, maybe give it a shot, maybe don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.